No questions? Okay. Let me see where we.
Oh yeah, did you see the set of sandwich?
Oh, what did you send me?
Like I wrote the one on here, but like there was no space for the complete, so I put for just sandwich in charge.
A document?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let me double check. Are we supposed to start test 5?
I guess so.
Rembrandt? Let me see if I have it up. It's like really troublesome without the laptop, so let me see if I have the file. If not, okay. This is test. Did you say this is test 5? Test 5. Please. Let's go.
Test 5. Listening. While everything you have just read about Portrait of an Elderly Woman in a White Bonnet is correct,
Is that the right one?
I think so.
About a white woman?
Yeah.
You think so? Yeah? Okay. All right. So let's go over the reading together today. Reading? Oh, there's a reading passage. You usually go over that first for the first 3 minutes, and then the listening begins. So this is page 30 in your writing booklet. I thought I was supposed to use a mic. Okay, so I'll try to be as loud as possible. All right, so let's go over the first paragraph, okay? Of the many 17th century Dutch painters, Rembrandt is perhaps most famous. Yet, scholars now say that some of the works that had been attributed to Rembrandt may not really be his after all. So that's the point, right? Some of his works may not actually be his. Okay, so highlight that. For example, the portrait of an elderly woman in a white bonnet. Okay, and then when you see any of these quotation marks, titles, in the introduction paragraph, you have to get ready to either expect whether the reading and listening are going to focus on this one particular painting or if it's going to come up with more examples later on. Okay, so that's something you need to anticipate as soon as you hear an example. It was attributed to Rembrandt because the representation and style with which the portrait was painted resembled many of his works. However, there are several elements which indicate that Rembrandt may not have painted this work. So we know the next following 3 paragraphs are going to focus on this particular painting. All you need to do is focus on the details. Got it? Alright, so what are the elements that indicate that it may not have been this painter's work? First, to begin with, the painting is riddled with highlight inconsistencies. How the woman is highlight clothed, okay? So the woman is dressed differently. It's not consistent. In what way? Let's find out. Her white linen cap, the hat, indicates that she is a servant, but the fashionable and opulent fur, meaning like wealthy looking, collar that she is wearing suggests that she is from a well-to-do family. So her cap indicates that she used to work for other people, and yet her collars indicate that she came from a rich family. Inconsistency. Do you see that? All right. This kind of contradiction would never have been committed by Rembrandt, who is famous for his meticulousness and precision. So what you would have highlighted here is never have been committed by, and then meticulousness, precision. Okie dokie? All right. Again, because when it comes to integrated writing, you want to just simply write one sentence regarding the reading passage of each paragraph, right? So try to figure out how to make that into one sentence later. And then, paragraph, body 2. In addition, the painting shows irregularities in, let's highlight irregularity in light and shadow. And FYI, Rembrandt is very, very famous for using light and darkness very well in his paintings, okay? So we're gonna talk about the irregularities there. Something that Rembrandt would never have been guilty of, so he would have never done that, as he was known as here we go, a master of these elements, meaning light and shadow. Okay, he's a master of light and shadow. In the painting, the woman's face is lit by a light that is reflected onto it from a source below. This is the reading portion, right? So you don't need to address these details in your writing, okay? These are just here to help you with the understanding. However, as stated above, the woman is wearing a dark fur collar, which could not reflect light onto her face. Accordingly, the woman's face should be darkened by partial shadow, but instead it is illuminated. It is highly unlikely that Rembrandt would have made this kind of mistake. So here, you're going to focus on the lighting of the woman's face is irregular. It's unnatural. Okay, so that's the type of information that you would use very briefly, and then move on to what the listening has to say. Lastly, the support that is used for the painting, made from several blocks of wood glued together. Okay, so we're talking about wood, right? Blocks of wood. And that was used for the painting. It's not within the painting. So what about the wood? It is not characteristic of other Rembrandt works. While he frequently, when you say while, it's the latter portion after the comma that is going to be integral. While he frequently worked on wood panels, after this, what does it say? No other painting attributed to him was painted on a panel that was glued together in this manner. Okay, so this is the only painting that utilizes these wood blocks. These factors consider, a group of art historians removed this painting from Rembrandt's catalog in the 1930s. The last sentence would probably be the conclusion sentence, right? It's a conclusion. It shouldn't be part of the last paragraph, but since it's only one sentence, I believe that's why the writer probably decided to just include that in the last statement. Okay? All right, so if you have highlighted the right portions, get ready to listen. Are you ready?
SNT, Excel Writing. Test 5. Listening. While everything you have just read about Portrait of an Elderly Woman in a White Bonnet is correct, the group of art experts have actually reinstated this work as a Rembrandt original after a rigorous review. Let me explain why.
I have no markers.
First, regarding the problematic fur collar, a scientific explanation of the paint revealed that the fur collar was actually painted over the original painting 100 years after the original was finished. It is speculated that someone altered the original painting of a servant into an aristocratic portrait in order to make it more expensive on the market. Additionally, this can also provide an explanation for the apparent inconsistency in light and shadow. When experts took off the layer of paint that depicted the fur collar, the woman was found to be wearing a plain, light-colored collar. This collar would have reflected, not absorbed the light, and hence the woman's face would rightly have been brightened from below. In other words, in Rembrandt's original painting, the light and shadow are depicted accurately, something we would expect from the master. Lastly, the wood panel. Again, this peculiarity was also created when the painting was modified after Rembrandt's death. When the fur collar was added to the painting, the original panel was also extended by adding blocks of wood in order to make the painting look larger and therefore more valuable. In the original Rembrandt painting, like all of his other works, only a single block of wood was used. In fact, a thorough examination has found that the wood that was used for the portrait of an elderly woman in a white bonnet came from the very same tree that was used for the panel of one of his other works, Self-Portrait with a Hat.
I'll play it one more time. snack. It keeps you sleepy especially.
Test 5. Listening. While everything you have just read about Portrait of an Elderly Woman in a White Bonnet is correct, a group of art experts have actually reinstated this work as a Rembrandt original after a rigorous review. Let me explain why. First, regarding the problematic fur collar, a scientific explanation of the paint revealed that the fur collar was actually painted over the original painting 100 years after the original was finished. It is speculated that someone altered the original painting of a servant into an aristocratic portrait in order to make it more expensive on the market. Additionally, this can also provide an explanation for the apparent inconsistency in light and shadow. When experts took off the layer of paint that depicted the fur collar, the woman was found to be wearing a plain, light-colored collar. This collar would have reflected, not absorbed the light, and hence the woman's face would rightly have been brightened from below. In other words, in Rembrandt's original painting, the light and shadow are depicted accurately, something we would expect from the master. Lastly, the wood panel. Again, this peculiarity was also created when the painting was modified after Rembrandt's death. When the fur collar was added to the painting, the original panel was also extended by adding blocks of wood in order to make the painting look larger and therefore more valuable. In the original Rembrandt painting, like all of his other works, only a single block of wood was used. In fact, a thorough examination has found that the wood that was used for the portrait of an elderly woman in a white bonnet came from the very same tree that was used for the panel of one of his other works, Self-Portrait with a Hat.
Should we listen to it one more time? Just to include more details? You don't care? Don't care. Like, whatever. Okay, how about this? I'll just play it in the background. So feel free to listen to it if it's, any of the parts that you wanted to listen again. If not, go ahead and get started with your writing. Did anybody need the tablet? No? If you don't feel like writing today, you don't have to. You look miserable. I can make this into homework. What do you want? Would you rather write it here? You want to write it in class, or do you want to write it at home? In class? You prefer to have 0 homework? Is that what it is? Independent writing is supposed to be homework, right? Or we can make that homework, or we can just do that on Wednesday if you want. That way you'll have 0 writing homework. Is that better? Okay.
SNT, Excel Writing. Test 5. Listening. While everything you have just read about Portrait of an Elderly Woman in a White Bonnet is correct, a group of art experts have actually reinstated this work as a Rembrandt original after a rigorous review. Let me explain why. First, regarding the problematic fur why. Actually reinstated this work as a Rembrandt original after a rigorous review. Let me explain why. First, regarding the problematic fur collar, a scientific explanation of the paint revealed that the fur collar was actually painted over the original painting 100 years after the original was finished. It is speculated that someone altered the original painting of a servant into an aristocratic portrait in order to make it more expensive on the market. Additionally, this can also provide an explanation for the apparent inconsistency in light and shadow. When experts took off the layer of paint that depicted the fur collar, the woman was found to be wearing a plain, light-colored collar. This collar would have reflected, not absorbed the light, and hence the woman's face would rightly have been brightened from below. In other words, in Rembrandt's original painting, the light and shadow are depicted accurately, something we would expect from the master. Lastly, the wood panel. Again, this peculiarity was also created when the painting was modified after Rembrandt's death. When the fur collar was added to the painting, the original panel was also extended by adding blocks of wood in order to make the painting look larger and therefore more valuable. In the original Rembrandt painting, like all of his other works, only a single block of wood was used. In fact, a thorough examination has found that the wood that was used for the portrait of an elderly woman in a white bonnet came from the very same tree that was used for the panel of one of his other works, Self-Portrait with a Hat.
Would you like me to turn off the heater or open the door for a minute? It's gonna get cold without this on if I open the door. But if I turn this off, it would stay warm as it is. But you might feel sleepy. So what do you want? Do you want this on but the door open for a little bit? For a little bit of circulation, and then I'll close it back once you start shaking. So they made a claim earlier, right? But then they changed it to something else. Okay, so we're moving on to listening. Let's check your homework first. I'll be right back. I went to get this earlier, and I had it in front of me and left it there. Okay, so let's check our answers. Oh, test 5. Is it 5 dash? Where are we checking? Leaves turn color? Or 5-2, right? The second one? Leaves turn color. If you did not get a chance to do the homework, it's okay. You can either write the answers down below, or just check the answers right away. It's totally up to you. I don't care. Leaves turn color. Number 1 was C. 2B, banana. 3D, David. 4A. 5B, banana. Number 6D, David. Okay? All right, let's move on. We will review together. And then next, discussion about a professor. You needed 2 answers for the first 2 questions. I know that's annoying, it's okay. If you had at least 1 correct answer, just consider it right, okay? Number 1, the answer was C and D. Number 2, B and C. 3C, 4C, 5B. And then next. Okay, Theodore Seuss Geisel. Number 1C, 2B, 3A, Number 4, you needed 2. Again, if you had one correct one, it's okay. 4, A and C. 5C, 6D, David. The last one on this test, electromagnetic waves. Number 1, D, David. 2C. 3D, David. 4B, banana. 5A, 6B, banana. Okay, and then moving on to test 6. Way to solve a problem. Number 1, D, David. 2A, 3C, 4D, David. 5B, banana. Was there another one, or was that it? That was it? Okay.
Oh.
One more? Discussion about the monthly exhibition? No, wait.
Application.
Oh, sorry. An application of nanotechnology, number 1A. 2D, David. 3C. 4A. 5C. 6B, banana. Good? Okay. So let's go back to test 5 really quick. Ooh, okay. So leaves turn color, are there any questions that you missed? I will, any questions you missed? Leaves turn color. We did?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Oh, okay, then 5-2. Discussion about our professor. Any questions there? No? What about Theodore Seuss? No, not at all? Can't really tell by their facial expressions. All I can tell is they're sad. All right. Electromagnetic waves. Any questions there?
1.
Yes? No?
1.
1? Question 1. Okay. What about you guys?
Discussion about.
You want to go back to the previous one? Discussion about professor number 3? Yes? Yes. If you want the scripts for any of the other listening, let me know. I've made it all.
Wow.
I know. That's what I did while you guys were gone. There's so much work to do.
So you type all these down?
No, thank God no. But for my other listening classes, we're utilizing SAT materials, and I had to convert the reading to listening, so I'm typing everything. It's like so much work, and I'm recording the listening file too. It's really annoying, and I have to hear myself. Okay, so let's go to the script, and Toya said you said number 3, right? Why does Professor Davis want the students to attend a reception? So, if you look in the middle, you see the bold word reception, right? Also, please remind everyone about the reception afterward. It will be an opportunity to ask Alan Altman about his acting in the play, which we can discuss in class next week. So he feels like it will be a great chance for the students to learn more from the actual actor, right? And then they could have a discussion in class afterwards. So that would be 3C, so that the student can ask an actor questions. Okay? Anything else there? No? Okay. Then are we done with test 5? Did anybody want the scripts on test 5? You don't need to take it, okay? Oh, last one? Okay. Let's do the last one, guys. But did you just want the script? Yes, yes. Wait. I think I printed it out. Oh, shoot me. Do I have to go back again? 다 만들어 놓고 안 뽑아놔 본데. I will be back. I will be back.
Really, right?
Ah, okay. But you guys need the script, so I'll be back. Huh? I don't know. Okay. I printed all of test 6 as well, so that I don't need to go back again. Okay, so let's look at the script for 5-5. And if we do so, number 1, what does the professor mainly discuss? So if you look at the very top, he says, so are there any questions before we continue our discussion of different types of electromagnetic waves? Today, we will focus on radio waves, and specifically very low frequency radio waves. Right? So he specifically gives you what the topic is going to be for today's lecture. But, wait a second, A, converting radio waves, no. F, different types of electron, no. He's going to focus on 1. And then C, the various paths. I think those, that's more related to the specific information, right? D, the emission and detection of very low frequency waves. But let's go back. And then let's look at what, after the student asks a question, are we going to talk at all about the differences between radio waves and sound waves? He says, okay, that might be a good place to start actually. So he does talk about the differences between radio waves and sound waves, right? Not among different types of radio waves. So he talks about sound waves are mechanical in nature. They can only originate and spread in places where blah, blah, blah. Let's move on to the next. Radio waves, on the other hand, this is more related to the topic, right? Are fundamentally different from sound waves. They are electromagnetic. They result from oscillations of the electromagnetic field and do not need a physical medium. So they can travel even in a vacuum, right? There's like no air, no nothing, right? Other types of electromagnetic wave can travel basically anywhere through a vacuum or through atmosphere or water. So it can travel anywhere. And then so it starts talking about more features of radio waves, you know? If you move on, the professor, where he asks the question, oh, do you have to wait, right? And he talks about the highlight. You can pretty much listen to them all the time. Because so we're talking about lightning strikes and how scientists are using these lightning strikes that happen constantly on Earth to learn more about radio waves, right? And then after the student's question, did you say waveguide? And the professor talks about waveguide. How they are different from, how there are a few different sounds. And then it starts talking about, you know, other radio waves. And then if you move on to the next page, that's it, right? So we're talking about low frequency waves. So how they emerge, so how they are created, how people can sense it, and then in terms of the detection, the professor was using how they collect data from lightnings, right? Does that make sense? So I believe A, B, and C could be eliminated, therefore making it clear for you to choose D after all. I don't think I would have chosen D right away. I would have chosen D after eliminating A, B, C for sure. And that's the easier way to go. Okay? All right. Are we done with this one then? Okay, so let's move on to test 6. Any questions on the first one? Way to solve the problem? No? Okay. And then 6-2, an application of nanotechnology. Let's go over that, yeah? Let me see, nano. Oh, you did? What about you? Did you do nano? No? So you just checked it, right? Okay. Then I think it's up to you, Xiong. Did you want to listen to this one more time before we look at the script? Or do you want to look at the script right away and just receive my explanation? Okay. So if you check there, 6-2. And then only number 1? Okay. What is the main purpose of the lecture? Okay, so the professor says in the third line, I want to talk about how nanotechnology is being used today, and just to give you an idea, we'll look at one particular application. So where it is used, how it is being used. A team of material scientists has blah 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 using nanocoating and then preventing fogging of eyeglasses or windshields of cars, right? So that's what they talk about as an example all throughout the lecture. And then it talks about how the idea was implemented from a lotus plant. So 연꽃, right? So A, to provide an example of a practical use of nanotechnology. If you look at B, to show the origins of the field, we're talking about the application of this particular technology. And then C, to give a brief outline of the main concepts. No, it's utilizing more of the example to help people understand the application of this field. And then D, to explain the growing interest. Not really. Is that okay? All right, so moving on, 6-3 is a new one, right? Okay, let's start with the conversation.
Dr. Morton?
Listen to a conversation between a student and an art professor.
Hi, Dr. Morton. I'm Karen Stern. I met you briefly about a year ago when I was applying to the university. You were on a panel of professors, and you were talking about the art department.
You know a student here. I guess I said the right thing.
Yeah. Right now I'm doing the intro courses in the art department, but I'm really interested in painting.
Well, I teach several of the painting courses, so I hope to see you in the future.
Actually, I was wondering, you're in charge of student art exhibitions at the university gallery, right?
Siri responded, sorry.
Right.
So I know all...
Ah!
Used from Southeast Asia about New Guinea that domesticate.
Oh, Jesus Lord. Oh,
Well, I teach several of the painting courses,
Is this okay?
so I hope to see you in the future.
Actually, I was wondering, you're in charge of student art exhibitions at the university gallery, right?
Right.
So I know all the exhibitors are students, but I was wondering how you choose the works you exhibit every month. Is there like a submission process or something?
No, there is a submission process, yes. We have a gallery review committee, but we already have our exhibitions planned for the rest of this school year. Generally, our exhibitors are third and fourth year students, well into their coursework.
Oh, well, I guess that'll be something to look forward to then. Tell me, do you show all kinds of paintings?
Well, actually, we started doing something different with the gallery this year. We're featuring a specific technique each month. Next month's exhibition, for instance, will feature drip paintings.
Really? Like Jackson Pollock?
Ah, so you're familiar with Pollock's work.
Well, sort of, though I've only seen photographs of it. I know he dripped paint onto the canvas instead of using a brush. I read he stretched out his canvases on the floor of his studio, and then he climbed up on a ladder to pour paint, ordinary house paint, from a can onto the canvas.
That's right. That was characteristic of Pollock in the late 40s, in what we call his drip period. And the object was to produce a constant stream of paint to create continuous lines. Because as you know, when you use a brush directly on the canvas, you get broken lines. So, you like Pollock?
Yeah, I do. I like abstract works in general. There's a class on abstract art, right?
Actually, I teach that class. And drip painting was one of our themes last year. Some students from last year's class have continued experimenting with it. They've created some incredible pieces, using everything from squeeze bottles to computer-controlled sprayers.
Do they look a lot like Pollock's work?
Well, our goal wasn't to imitate Jackson Pollock. The object was to get students to look at different ways of applying paint to a canvas. But you don't have to enroll in a specific course to be invited to exhibit your work. It just has to fit the theme for one of our exhibitions.
Why
Go over
does
the question
student want to
first.
see them?
And then see if we have to hear it again. For number 5,
Yeah.
The professor says, generally, our exhibitors are 3rd and 4th year students well into their coursework. Generally, our exhibitors are 3rd and 4th year students well into their coursework. Number 1 was B, banana. 2A, 3A for D, David, 5C. So let's look at the script. Why does the student go to see the professor? They have like a very long opening conversation at the start. But the student eventually goes ahead and says, so I know all the exhibitors are students, but I was wondering how you choose the works you exhibit every month. The 6-3. Okay, so we're looking at the very first highlight. I was wondering how you choose the works you exhibit every month. Because the student's probably interested in exhibiting, was it a she? Her? Yeah, I think it was a she, right? Exhibiting her own work. And then professor talks about how there is a submission process, although most of the exhibitors every year are 3rd and 4th graders. Okay, it implies that if she is not a 3rd or 4th year student, then it's highly likely that she's not going to be appointed. Got it? All right, but anyways, so for number 1, B, to find out how artwork is selected for university gallery exhibitions. Okay? All right, then 2, why does the student mention Jackson Pollock? Students really like Jackson Pollock. And then as you can tell, the professor hadn't mentioned this guy earlier, right? But then she suddenly brings him up. implying that she knows a very famous painter that uses a certain type of feature. Okay, and then the professor's like, oh, you know about him, right? So number 2, to indicate to the professor that she is familiar with the drift technique, okay, by specifying a painter. 3, according to the professor, what distinguishes Jackson Pollock's work? So what makes his work stand out? What makes it so special, according to the professor? If you look at the second highlight from the bottom, that was characteristic of Pollock in the late 40s, which is part of what the students said prior to this comment, which is dripped paint onto the canvas instead of using a brush. He stretched out his canvases on the floor, and then he climbed up on a ladder to pour paint from a can onto the canvas. So that was a technique utilized by this guy Pollock in the late 40s in what we call his drip period. And the object, so the objective, the goal, was to produce a constant stream of paint to create continuous lines. Because as you know, when you use a brush directly on a canvas, you get broken lines, right? 약간 흐르는 느낌을 만들려고, right? So instead of using paintbrushes, he just poured paint onto the canvas right away. So A, the method he used for applying paint to a canvas, because he didn't use a paintbrush. But to eliminate B, C, and D, B, the location, didn't really matter. C, the widespread popularity of his style of art. First, this wasn't mentioned, but it would be a redundant answer because number 3 is actually asking what makes his work stand out. And talking about, oh, because it was popular. It's asking why it was popular. And then the answer, C, is basically saying, well, because it was popular. You know what I'm saying? It's a pretty redundant question. And then D, the size of the paintings he produced, it says you use big canvases, I think, but again, not very important, right? It was about his drip techniques. And then 4, what does the professor imply about his class on abstract art? So he talks about, ooh, I teach abstract class too, right? And then that's the last highlight. I actually teach that class, and drip painting was one of our themes last year. Some students from last year's class have continued experimenting with it, so they got to try different things. And created some incredible pieces using everything from squeeze bottles to computer control spares. So they had no limitations to what tools they could utilize besides just dripping paint, right? They could use anything that they could come up with. So D, it encourages students to explore different painting techniques. Good? 5, and then the professor, like I said, is probably going to be 3rd and 4th graders who are going to participate in the exhibition. That's what he's implying. So that would be C. Artwork submitted by a first-year student will probably not be accepted. They're not ready. They're little babies, okay? Their work's probably going to suck. All right, so are we good? Any further questions? Okay, let's move on. The structure of theater. It's going to be so boring. I'm so sorry, but this one actually is going to entail a lot of different information. So pay attention, and there are different criteria that are being mentioned regarding theaters. Okay, so. Do you want this to be faster?
Listen to part
Yes
of
or
the
no?
lecture in
Faster?
an introduction to drama class.
Oh, it's a very speed.
Yeah. Do you want it to be faster? Like when you were listening to the previous conversations or lectures, were you falling asleep? Falling asleep. I'm gonna turn that off first of all. But faster? Okay? Is it okay? If it's too fast, just raise your hand and make a sad face, and then I'll put back to its original speed. But just to spice things up.
History of drama, there's a relationship between the structure of a play and the structure
Too
of the
fast?
space where the play was performed. And this goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks.
Is it
The
okay?
Greeks built the first theaters in the 5th century
He's rapping.
CE. These were outdoor theaters. The architects looked for sites.
Okay, never mind.
Oh,
Never mind.
I feel like I am in the news.
Oh no, it's actually faster than that. So yeah, don't feel bad. It's too fast. Okay. Oh, too hot. I think you guys start.
Listen to part of a lecture in an introduction to drama class.
Throughout the history of drama, there's been a relationship between the structure of a play and the structure of the space where the play was performed. And this goes all the way back to the ancient Greeks. The Greeks built the first theaters in the 5th century BCE. These were outdoor theaters. The architects looked for sites where you had a natural bowl-like formation on the side of a hill, and that's where they set the theater. All Greek theaters were pretty much the same. There was some natural variation to accommodate the size and shape of the site, but as far as the basic elements went, those remained constant. Have a look at this diagram. Start with the area where the actors performed, like what we call the stage today. The Greeks referred to this space as the skene. There's some confusion about the use of the word skene by different scholars. Some authors use it to refer only to the structure behind the stage, while others use it to refer to the structure and the stage together. And that's how I'll use the term, to refer to both the stage and the building. So, anyway, the skene started as a simple wooden platform, but eventually became much more elaborate. The front wall of the building was decorated like a palace or temple and served as background scenery for the play. The building was also a storage place for costumes, props, things like that. Yes, Robert?
So, did they decorate the skene for each play, or change the scenery during the play, like we do today? Or did the whole story take place in one setting?
Well, everything the audience saw happened in that one setting, usually in front of either a temple or a palace, but the audience didn't witness all the events in the story. Some events couldn't be presented convincingly, so the playwrights had them take place somewhere off stage, where the audience couldn't see them, and then news of the event would be reported by one of the characters. Diane?
Last summer I saw Hippolytus.
Excellent. I hope you enjoyed it.
Definitely. So at one point, you see Hippolytus being sent off by his father. Then a little later, a messenger arrives and describes how Hippolytus was riding in his chariot when a giant bull appeared out of the ocean and caused the chariot to crash. And then, after we hear what happened to Hippolytus, he's carried back on stage, where he dies.
Exactly. I mean, can you imagine trying to show all that action, a giant animal rising out of the sea? Okay. The next area was the space the ancient Greeks called the orchestra. The orchestra was either round, as you see here, or a semicircle. In ancient Greek, the word orchestra actually meant the dancing place, because this is where the chorus danced and sang. But to understand Greek plays, you need to understand an additional function of the chorus. Yes, the ancient Greek chorus did most definitely sing and dance like choruses do today. But the chorus's most important role was commenting on what the characters on stage were doing and thinking. In fact, Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, thought the chorus should be considered as acting out a role in the play.
Yeah, I read that a chorus could have a distinct personality, just like a person.
Absolutely. In fact, you'll see an excellent example of that in the first play we'll be studying. Okay. The last space was the seating area for the audience. This was called the theatron. In ancient Greek, theatron means seeing. That's S-E-E-I-N-G, seeing place. The theatron was shaped in a semicircle with rows of seating rising up the sides of the bowl. It was designed to take advantage of the natural acoustic benefits of the setting. The shape of the bowl captured sound and funneled it upwards, so that even in the top rows, spectators were able to hear the performers very clearly. Actually, that the name theatron means seeing place is kind of ironic. Some theaters had 50 or more rows of seats, accommodating up to 14,000 spectators, ascending way up the hillside. And this was long before theater binoculars were invented.
That's it. Number 6, it was that last sentence of the professor. Some theaters had 50 or more rows of seats accommodating up to 14,000 spectators ascending way up the hillside, and this was long before theater binoculars were invented. Some theaters had 50 or more rows of seats accommodating up to 14,000 spectators ascending way up the hillside, and this was long before theater binoculars were invented. Right? If you're one of the 14,000 people with no binoculars, do you think you would have been able to see the stage? Yeah. Who needs more time? Do you want to listen to it again? Probably not. All right, number one, the answer is C. 2BC, 3A, 4B banana, 5D dragon, number 6D dragon. Okay? Okay, what questions should we cover? Huh? Number 6, why does the professor say this? Like I just said, even before binoculars were invented, so many audience were watching this show together, all at the same time. So calling this area where the crowd could sit and watch, being called the seeing area, would be ironic. Because you can't really see anything. Like, all you can do is really listen to the play. So using that info, A, to emphasize the popularity, well, I mean, we can infer from context that it was probably popular because so many people attended the show, but that's not the purpose for the professors commenting on this. B, to praise to the creativity, the seating area has nothing to do with creativity. C, to point out that every seat in ancient Greek theater had a clear view of the stage. Probably not. D, to suggest that audiences in ancient Greece could hear plays better than they could see them. Does that make sense now? Okay, good. So for number 6, the answer is C. You asked number 6, right? Yeah, okay. All right, anything else? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? No? Doyeon, did you get all correct?
3.
Okay, can't you just like let me know before I start asking you personally? Thank you. All right, number 1 and 2 you said? Huh? 1 and 2? 1? 2? Hello? 3?
Yeah.
What? What is this?
3.
Okay. So no 1 and 2?
Yes.
Okay. I'm pretty sure I heard 1, 2. What is happening? Why is the play Hippo? What's his name? Hippo. Hippo. Why is the play Hippo discussed? Let's go back to the chart, the script. Look for the word Hippo. All right, the student says, last summer I saw Hippolytus. Is that how you say it? I don't know. Professor, excellent. I hope you enjoyed it. And the student says, definitely. So at one point, you see this guy. So in the beginning, the student, when she mentions it for the first time, she's mentioning the title of the play. And the second time she says it, in the beginning of this highlight, this long one, she's talking about the main character. Okay? So you see Hippo being sent off by his father. His father's like, go, Hippo, go, fight. Okay? Then a little later, a messenger, not Hippo, a messenger arrives and describes how his son was riding in his chariot, right? When a giant bull appeared out of the ocean and caused the chariot to crash. And then, so the messenger pretty much does all the talking, right? Instead of showing the audience what Hippo is actually doing. Right? Because it's too large scale. Like, they can't do that. Like, or they, you know what I'm saying? They can't create an ocean or bring a bull. And then after we hear what happened to Hippo, he's carried back on stage where he dies. So he comes back to the stage and he dies there. Okay? So, using that. But let's continue reading just a little further. The professor says then, exactly, I mean, can you imagine trying to show all that action, fighting in the ocean against a bull, a giant animal rising out of the sea? Okay, the next area, and then he moves on. So asking that rhetorical question implies that in order to present impossible scenes, they would just utilize messengers or other characters simply talking about the incident rather than directly showing it to them or showing it to the audience, right? So that would be a different technique of plays. And so that is A. To give an example of a strategy used by ancient Greek playwrights. Playwrights refer to 극작가. And then B. To give an example of how animals were used. There were no animals being used, okay? They just talked about it. C. To identify the first use of a... Too much. D, to point out that ancient Greek plays typically involve tragedy. What in the world is this kind of talking about, okay? So the answer is A, right? Okay. As of now, I know at times it will be difficult for you to understand very specific details within a lecture because you're so busy taking notes, and then the professor in this situation keeps going back, like keep going everywhere, right? He talks about random things all of a sudden. There's no clear organization until you finish it, right? When it comes down to lectures, once you get used to taking notes, once you get used to listening, I wouldn't spare too much of my energy on actually writing things down, but I will try to listen to it as if it's a story that I'm interested in. I know we're lying, but we'll just pretend we're really interested in this class, and then you're a student just sitting in a lecture room. So I would pay more attention to actually understanding the details in my brain. Does that make sense? I always feel like if I'm too focused on writing down everything, the moment I hesitate on writing certain things, I miss the next point. And then you don't get to hear it again. So I would rather just sit there and listen to it and just write down like little bits that you might forget. Okay? All right, so moving on. Do we have time to do another one? I guess so, yes. Okay, so let's move on to the very last portion of test 6. New Guinea. Guinea pig is spelled like this, right? Is it because they're from here? Guinea pigs? Why are they called pigs? I don't know. Okay, they look like rats. Like, why would anybody name them guinea pigs? That's weird. Okay, so this is your last one, guys. When we're finished, we're done.
Oh.
Oh, what? You want to do 2 more? Or you just want to end it and call it a day right now? No! Let's just finish this off, since you have the script. Aww. If you're too exhausted, because we did listening for the writing portion as well, just look at the script then. Oh?
That's cheating.
What? That's cheating? I know! I mean, you don't want to do anything, but I mean, it's only like, what, like 2:46. Do you really want a break? Okay, fine. Alright, so 0 homework for today. On Wednesday, you're coming back, right? Are you coming here on Wednesday? Okay. On Wednesday, we'll finish this off and then move on to test 7, which I will print out. I'm like telling myself, I will print out test 7 by Wednesday. Okay. Oh, by the way, on the 20th, you guys are all coming next Monday, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Because for some students, some students going to high school, like they have something to do on the 20th at school, so they're not coming. But you guys are gonna be here, right? Okay, so. You know, like when these like little kids start running around for a long time, like I stand outside and just stare at them. And then they get so intimidated. Okay, so we have 1 more class this week, and then 1, 2, 3 more classes, and then we are done with this intensives. Oh. Oh. Okay, so take a break. Aw. I have up to test 8. If we finish test 7 and 8 before the end of, like before the last day, I'm gonna have to make more. So let's take this slow. Okay, I'm like sick and tired of making materials now.
Did you previously I asked you for the more writing practice?
Didn't I send you extra?
Actually, I have test 2, 3, 4, but I don't have any answer sheets.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting how you finished this, but you didn't do our homework.
I did homework, but I
Nah. Okay, good. So you need the answer sheets, right?
Yeah.
Let me.
Every part, not only this one. I finished the test 1, but I'm going to
Do you want the rest of the tests?
Yeah.
The reason why I couldn't send you that is because the files are too big. So I had to like split them, but I forgot which files I sent you last time. So I just need the file numbers. So did you get all of test 1? So should I
Yes.
give you all of test 2 now?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's only answer.
Okay. Okey dokes. I shall try to do that right now before I forget. Are you able to check your email before you leave today? Like
Yeah, of
via
course.
phone? Good. Okay.
Actually, I'll be next to line, so.
Okay, cool. Alright. I will try to get this done by Wednesday. If not, I'll give it back to you on Monday. We'll see how it goes, okay? Yeah, no problem. I want to get everything done in a, like, at a faster pace, but like, I have so many classes to teach these. I don't know why this happened. Oh, yes. Did you need anything from me?
I think I should have listened, but you gave me some last time.
Okay, so take a look at it, and if it's something that you've already finished, you just let me know.
Wait, did you send me the answer sheets as well?
I thought so, but when I send it to him, I'll just send you the same thing, I guess.
Okay, sure.
Is it the same thing? Huyoung, can you show us yours, like that thingy? Yeah, the supplementary materials, yes. Can you show it to Xiong? You need to check and see if it's the same kind.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Okay, alright. I'll send you the answer key right now. Ay, ay, ay.